Welcome to episode one of The Director's Eye, podcast where I talk to directors about their work, arts, craft, and size of cinema. Today's episode I have UDOKA Oyeka, actor director with films like ZR7, Down and Out, Different Funeral, and his latest No Good Turn. Now I have to apologize ahead of time for some noise you're gonna hear during the recording. The environment was very noisy, barking dogs, generators, and a lot of interference, so I apologize for that. And I still believe you enjoy this episode, so check it out. Alright, I'm here with UDOKA Oyeka, actor, writer, director, producer. So we'd like to start with breaking the story, UDOKA. How did you get into film, and how did you get into filmmaking?
How did I get into film and filmmaking? Wow. Okay, that's going to be like a very long story, but short version. Okay, well, I knew I loved the arts. I was very much attracted to the arts. When I went to the university, I wanted to be a music major. I wanted to be a composer of music, classical music. But my parents were, that wasn't going to go down with my parents. So I decided to do something in the business admin block. But in my sophomore year, I needed to take some elective classes, and that's how I went back to the arts, curriculum. I was like, okay, what can I take in this building? And that's how I discovered the stage. So I registered for theater for non-majors. And I think that was like the beginning of the whole thing, just being in that hall. I was already a movie buff. Like I loved watching movies. I used to watch a lot of films.
Why did you start on the stage as opposed to taking a film elective?
That's the thing. Film hadn't occurred to me at this point. For me, it was music.
Okay.
So even when I went, it was funny because I picked up the book that has all the courses that you can take in the school, and I went straight to the arts department, and I went straight to the music section, and I was looking at it, vocals, instrumentals, just looking for what to pick. For some reason I went past it and I saw theater, and I was like, oh, that's that Broadway thing. I love movies already, but I'd never thought about making films or being in film. Yeah, it wasn't there at that point in time.
Watching to making.
Exactly. So it was just like, oh, theater. This just seemed interesting. It seemed exciting to me. Because I'd seen Broadway, but I'd never been to a play before then. And so I was like, okay, let me try this out and see how it goes. And just the first day I walked into class, our class was in the main auditorium of the school, and just this was more like the presence of of that stage, how grand the stage was, how big the theater in the school was. Like it was huge, and the stage was just huge and imposing, and it's hard to describe, but there's so much emotion that ran through me. I was like, where has this thing been my whole life? And every day I went to class. In fact, that was the class I looked forward to going to. And every day I went to class, everything our teacher said made me want more. I just kept on diving in as the semester went on. And funny enough, I auditioned for the school play that year while I was taking that class. We had to by requirement, and I got a part in the school play. And I had to start going for rehearsals with the theater majors, because every other person that got a role was a theater major. So they became my friends. I started performing in their own school productions for their exams. So it just evolved, So after I graduated, I'd already fallen in love with theater. And, a friend of mine, one of the theater majors, she was like, have you ever thought about acting for film? And I was like, well, yes, it actually crossed my mind, but I'd never told anyone. She was like, I think you would do really well. Here's a number, call this lady, see if you can get into her class. And that's how I met Teresa Bell, who is like the renowned acting coach in Dallas for film. So she's very selective with who she picks to join her class, and I reached out to her. She had me come sit in one of her classes and to see if this is what I really wanted. And that was it. So I started with Teresa Bell for 2 years, And
2 years.
yeah, yeah. And then I think I was ready to leave Dallas. And I think my parents had just had enough. I'd graduated school with an accounting degree, spent the next 2 years in drama school, doing community theater in Dallas. And I was, about to move out from Dallas. And my parents, they've had it, you're just too much. And they're like, please come back and just do your NYSC kind of thing. And that's why I moved back to Nigeria. It's just, just that random.
So do you have any embarrassing musical theater footage of you flying around somewhere?
I think there's an old picture I posted up on Facebook a long time ago. I think somebody tagged me in it a long time ago. And I have some pictures from some community work I did.
Okay, so we understand how you started as an actor. So how did you make that transition from being an actor from a business admin background to becoming an actor-director? And how did that lead to your first feature film, ZR7?
Yeah, so it's funny because so I came back to do my NYSC, and I don't know, you can try to take us out of film, but you can't take film out of us, that kind of thing. I was here in Nigeria. I didn't know anyone in the industry. A very good friend of mine, Femi Ogunsonwo, had also moved back like the year before me, and he was like my elder brother's best friend back in the States, back in Dallas. So I knew Femi very well, and Femi was also a movie buff as well. So we're both here in Nigeria, in Lagos, and I was serving, and we had always talked about film. After he discovered that I was in drama school and doing theater and stuff like that, so we always used to talk about film. But now that we're both in Lagos, it was just, I don't know if I'll say fate, that it was just
serendipity,
whatever we would like to call it. And we started talking about a project, and we thought about making a film, but we'd never made a film before. So we talked about making a film, and there was supposed to be like a scene, like a flashback to how, in that story, a flashback of how the two friends met in boarding school.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, what should this scene be about? Because so he started telling me about his boarding school stories. I was telling him about my boarding school stories, and he was like, oh, it'd be more interesting if we hear the story from his cousin. Back in the day, that this happened to his cousin back, and this is us just trying to see what this one scene in the new movie would be, in our movie would be about. And there was just this whole stories of boarding school, and and we're like, wait, hold up, scrap this other story you want to do. We can make a film about boarding school, and that's how ZR7 was born. Like, we decided to do a film about boarding school. Yeah.
What was that experience like making ZR7? Because there are not a lot of boarding house feature-length films, and making a film with that scale as your first movie.
Yeah, so
what was that like? Co-directing. What is it like co-directing? Okay,
well, with Femi, it was very it was seamless, because Femi is very easygoing. I'm very easygoing, and I think it boils down to mutual respect. His stories were exciting, my stories were exciting. It wasn't hard to let's use this. Like, I don't think we even ever. It was just fun and game. It was just fun and game, to be honest. And because we didn't know anyone in the industry, we had no clue. Our saving grace was Femi's cousin went to NFI. Okay. So we got him to be our AD, and then we recruited most of his friends that went to NFI as the rest of the crew. And funny enough, we still work with some of these guys still today in all my films.
That was how many years ago?
This was about 7 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, about 7 years ago. It's been a while. So that's how ZR7 was born, really. And it was just all experimental. We used our funds, personal. Put money together, got the crew together, went to Ilorin. Got the Federal Government College. Federal Government College Ilorin to allow us to shoot in their school, and we shot there for 6 weeks. It was just, I think that was film school for me. ZR7 was film. Yeah. For me, that was where I got bit by the directing bug first. That was where I learned more from shooting ZR7, than I feel like I would have if I had gone to film school. I wanted to go to film school, I couldn't afford it. so I couldn't go to film school. So after ZR7, there was a lot of like the next couple years was a lot of research, a lot of movie watching, a lot of studying film. Like I would watch films from like the 1920s, 30s, 40s.
Which films would you say gave you the most inspiration to learn directing? To understand how it works to get the best effect from the audience.
The funny thing is that I never really thought about the audience as much. I was just obsessed and captivated with film and filmmaking in general. And I think one of the guys that really did it for me was Elia Kazan.
Okay. Street Called Desire?
Yeah, Streetcar Called Desire, Waterfront. Watching his films, back in the day, he had a very gritty way of making films as compared to how, lovable Hollywood was back then. Like how, lovable is not the word, how, clinical and how, beautiful they would make, how, everything flowed, the music, the picture, even the acting, everything was structured, to give you this kind of wonderful masterpiece. Everything just came together. But Ilya was one of those people that he was like the Martin Scorsese of that time. He was just edgy and gritty. There was nothing pretty about his work. But he was telling the story, and it would grab you. And so for me, Ilya Kazan, Marlon Brando's performances in his films were very, I think, touched my brain, like somewhere deep. That actually he's one of the directors that I look up to.
Okay.
If I don't know if that's the word. He inspired me to want to make good films. To want to put in the effort to make good films. Obviously Hitchcock. And another very, very big one was Stanley Kubrick. I think I've seen all of Stanley Kubrick's films.
Which one is your favorite?
My favorite Stanley Kubrick film, I would have to say...
Full Metal Jacket?
No, The Killing.
The Killing, okay.
Yeah, The Killing, 1956. I think The Killing for me... the first time I saw The Killing and I got to the end, there's this stillness and this, you're like, you're wondering, like, what did I just watch? And then you think about that. You think, you process the fact that this was made in 1956 or maybe 1955. I mean, it was released in 56.
Ahead of its time.
Yeah, and you're like, if they made that movie right now, like, this is the same kind of movie we're making right now, that Hollywood is making right now. That's how detailed and how, intricate the story was. The story was everything for me in The Killing. Another favorite of mine was Barry Lyndon. Just a straight story, and how seamless that story was, and how twisted it was too. So Kubrick also had a lot of influence.
Okay, so you're one of the few actor directors in your generation, and to clarify that, I mean young people under 40 working in Nollywood right now. And you're one of the few actors and directors doing that. So what's that experience like, going from primarily in front of the camera to behind the camera? What's that experience like, especially when you are performing in that same film as you do in No Good Turn?
The funny thing, I think for me, I started off with stage and, got in front of the camera, and I didn't get, I think for me it was learning and trying to, because you never really fully master it, you're always learning. Yes, and yeah, exactly. So you get to a place where you're comfortable with one, and then for about 4 years I was strictly behind the cameras, and I had to go from a place where I didn't know what the hell I was doing to a place where I was now comfortable with, being behind the cameras, So from ZR7, I had Down and Out, had Living Funeral, before I did No Good Turn. So there was a growing process, and I'm still growing right now. I don't think it's ever going to stop. But I got to a place where I was comfortable directing I understood it now to a comfortable degree. And I felt, okay, while I was writing a No Good Turn, there was something that just kept striking me about the character, the main doctor. It was just there, there was just that connection already.
So while you were writing, you hadn't yet decided to play the role?
No, I hadn't decided. Like, when I came up with the story, I hadn't decided to play the doctor. And in Down and Out, I directed Down and Out. I wasn't in the film. After that, I did Living Funeral. I wasn't in the film. I was just strictly behind the cameras. So when it got to No Good Turn, when I had the story, I wasn't supposed to be in the film. But so when I started writing the story, there was just this connection with that character. And I was like, I understood, as an actor, I don't know, I think my acting, antennas were just up, and, I just connected with the character. And then, after a while, by the time I got my first draft, I was like, okay, I'm going to play this character in this film. And, obviously it goes through a couple drafts. So when it was ready, I started telling people, I told Femi, I think, I was like, oh, yeah, check out this script that I wrote, what do you think about it? Oh, by the way, I think I'm going to play, Benga Jakande in the film. And, he was very supportive. He was like, as long as you feel ready, yeah, go ahead and,
So that was your first time directing yourself?
Yeah, that was first time directing myself, first time me directing. No, actually, because I did 3 scenes in ZR7.
Yeah, but you did direct.
But I had a co-director.
Yeah, so this is the first time as a solo director, as also being in front of the camera.
Yes.
So how does that change the dynamics of a scene where you as a director are sharing a scene with another actor and you have to direct them in the scene, give your own performance, at the same time direct your cinematographer, who's behind the camera, keeping an eye out for you?
Yeah, I think this is where things like pre-production comes into play heavily. Okay. I didn't go on set trying to direct a scene, right? I'd already directed the scene before the first day of principal photography. I already knew what I wanted from every scene. I had it written down. I knew what I wanted to shoot. I knew, and I've had extensive discussions with my cinematographer. How we're going to make this film. So I wasn't on set just trying to discover or trying to figure out how we're going to shoot this scene.
So it's basically seeing the whole movie.
As
a director.
Exactly. Laid it down.
You went in as an actor.
Exactly. So my cinematographer knew what was required, what was expected. Production designer, everybody was pre-production was heavy, before we even started shooting the film, and I think it just made everything easier. And
you're emphasizing the sense of pre-production,
and I think film production. Yeah. So I think when you worry about your performance as an actor while you're directing, I wasn't so much worried, about my performance. I'll feel like if I was directing a film and my actor told me, oh, can we do it too? Even if everything was technically sound with the take, I'll give him that too. I'll give him another run at it because maybe he didn't feel, his performance. Maybe he'll give me something different.
Director know that that's the scene you want to use in the final cut.
Yeah, but he might do something that might make me change my mind. Yeah, so I like to make sure everybody feels comfortable, with their work, Okay. So even if I get what I want and the actor is like, I didn't feel that, can we just do one more take? I'll do it again. And you never know, that might be better than what I had before. So for me, performing while I'm directing, if I feel like I didn't feel like a performance, from myself and everything was right, I'll be like, oh, DP, how was, like, oh, it was good. Like, okay, yeah, just do one more, I have that liberty to say, okay, let's do another. And if another actor had the same issue, or can we do more? I don't feel like I was out of place. We'll do another one. It doesn't hurt as long as we have time.
So do you think your training as an actor makes you a better director in understanding the needs of an actor?
I think it definitely helps. Quite a lot of directors, when you go back and check out their backgrounds, they did theater or did some kind of acting, or took some acting classes as well. I think it just helps you understand how the mind of an actor works. You know, if you're an actor, if you've had some classes as an actor, it helps you understand, you know, the process of, you know, and everybody's different, so it's going to be different for everybody. But you'd have an inclination to, you know, what should be going on in an actor's mind as a director. You know, the worst thing is for a director not to know how to communicate his vision to his actor. You know, and then you're just there doing take after take because you're not giving him what he wants. You know, but if a director can communicate because they can actually, like sometimes I would work with, in Living Funeral, the girl who played the lead had never acted before. Okay. So Living Funeral was her first film ever, and she got nominated for Best Actress for that film. But when we were shooting the film, like I would perform. It's kind of almost like perform, you know, almost, yeah. But she was so good at taking directions and, you know, absorbing what I'm giving her, you know, so it could work. You know, it works when a director knows how to feed an actor. Yeah, I think it helps.
So, Udoka, coming down to No Good Turn, why Boko Haram? What was it about the situation that made you decide to tell a story about this situation and this tragic occurrences within Nigeria?
You know, terrorism has been plaguing Nigeria since, you know, 2009, and I remember just, you know, having this awful feeling, you know, in my gut, you know, when I found out that Nigeria was, you know, labeled a terrorist country now, you know, and I was like, I grew up here, like, you know, I couldn't imagine, you know, you watch the news every time and you're like, oh,
this can never happen in Nigeria.
Yeah, you know, we're just chilled, yeah. So chilled, and you know, to be labeled like a terrorist country, I'm like, you know, because you have this idea of how you think of a terrorist country. Like when you think of, you know, terrorism in some countries, and I just didn't, you know, it just didn't sit well, you know. And funny enough, like over the years, like no one had, you know, Nollywood is like, you know, the second largest producers of film, and we make so much films every year, but, you know, we haven't even talked about this thing that's right in front of our doorsteps, you know. So, you know, for me, it was about using film to just, you know, create awareness and talk about what's going on in the country. And it was kind of passive, you know, the way we would be in Lagos and, you know, every weekend we're still drinking, partying, popping champagne here and there, and the next morning the newspaper is like, oh, 300 people died in Borno State, or another 2 bomb blasts in Adamawa State, you know. And it was just, you know, life went on as if, you know, it wasn't happening, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about it, you know. You would wonder how people that live in Baga or people that live in Chibok, you know, how are they sleeping and how are they waking up the next morning? Like, how do they feel? Like, you know, I thought about, you know, being in their shoes, and I just wanted to use film to tell that kind of story.
So this is a thread that runs through your films, because if we look at Down and Out, that was about unemployment and rape.
Right.
Living Funeral was about death breast cancer.
Right.
And now No Good Turn is about Boko Haram. So these are all issues that are very relevant to the Nigerian society. Is this an intentional pattern you intend to follow continuously? Are you going to carry this into your future films?
You know, I think because they're short films, I can easily talk about an issue. You know, when it comes to feature films, it's a little more complicated than that, because now you're getting investors to make those films and not necessarily sponsors, you know, and you need to give something more, you know, a little bit more entertaining than just, you know, focusing on an issue. But it is possible to have a social issue, talk about a social issue and make it entertaining, you know. So it's about incorporating that into
the world of the story.
Yeah, into the story. You know, it's about, you know, marrying the two together and, you know, trying to make it sweet, you know. But my feature film, my next feature film, funny enough, touches mildly on on a social issue, but I don't dwell on it as much. It gets into a roller coaster ride. But we'll see how we can marry both eventually.
So what do you think of the industry's role generally, because the industry is primarily known for entertainment, mostly comedy and morality tales.
Mm-hmm.
So stories like this on Boko Haram or death or
Social issues.
How do you think the industry should play its role? Because we as a society don't read as much, but we do watch television, we do watch movies, and we do listen to stories. We love stories. So as storytellers who have chosen the medium of film, how do you think the industry should play its part in using film to inform, to change situations? Because a film will probably have more impact than any book, at least in this society. A film will have a stronger impact and a more memorable impact than a speech per se. So while still strongly staying within what has made the industry what it is, how do you think this type of stories can be incorporated without becoming preachy, so to speak?
Right. It's funny because it could be dangerous, getting into the trend of thinking the audience, doesn't want anything else apart from comedy, which is where most producers will tell you, oh, if it's not a comedy, I'm not interested. No, I don't want to make a film that is not comedy. So we get into this, we're getting into a trap mindset where, a certain class of people feel like other genres of film should die because, AY and 30 Days, and you talk about films that have made a lot of money in the cinemas, all being comedy. So we're like, we're not making any other kind of films, except if it's not comedy, please don't bring it to my table. And people are already having that conversation right now. Even the distribution houses will tell you the same thing. They're like, is it comedy? Who is in it? Who's playing? And then everybody's locked in on that.
So it's limiting the genres.
It is
genre growth.
One. Two, film is not just comedy. Like, you can incorporate comedy if you want to, but there are other genres. There's so many different kinds of films, and I think we haven't even started to explore some. And
particularly for the kind of country we are, with such a rich social history, political history, very diverse culture.
There's so much we can do with film in Nigeria.
Adaptations alone,
adaptations of
about
books, adaptations of our history,
mythology.
It's our Yoruba myth, Igbo house. There's so much we can do with film, and I think people just need to get out of that mindset that only comedy would work, because that is a big lie. We just need to make film the way film should be made, and in any if you make that in any genre, it would fly. The thing is, I think we miss some key elements and we don't pay attention to details when we're making other genres of films. And comedy flies because comedy doesn't really need those elements to fly. But when you by the time you get a few comedians,
their personalities,
and their personalities and the scenarios that you put them in, it's selling, or it sells already. So you don't really need to focus on details or production design and having a big production value to the film for it to sell in Nigeria. You know what I mean? So it's easier to make. If you just get Fowles, get Bovi, get one other guy and put them in a movie, people will go and watch that movie because of the guys. That's why AY's film sold so much.
The audience draw.
But when you dissect the film itself, technically, and story-wise, what are we given? You can't get away with that if it's a different genre, but you can get away with it in comedy. You know what I mean? So because all those other elements are missing in the other genres, if you don't pay attention to those elements, you're going to come out with a bad film, most likely. So it takes more to make those kind of. It takes a bit more details.
But do you think because a lot of Nigerians watch TSTV, and a lot of Nigerians faithfully talk about following the Game of Thrones and the House of Cards and the Scandal, and those are not comedies. So obviously there's a demographic of Nigerians that love other genres but likely aren't watching Nigerian made films. Now, do you think that's a factor of trust, or do you think there's a reason that they haven't chosen to watch our films? And is this comedy a lone factor possibly there? Because
I think we haven't given it to them. We used to.
Yeah, because you
think of Checkmate. You think of
Checkmate.
You think of Behind the Clouds. Yeah,
you think of Igodo.
Yeah, exactly.
Think of Isakaba. You think
Exactly.
of Neka the Pretty Serpent. You think of Sakobi. You think of
Rattlesnake.
And those were
That's what I'm saying. We used to.
thriving genres.
We
that
used to.
People loved.
We used to give it to them, and I think a few people are still. We just haven't hit the nail on the head. It's. There's so much. There's so much that goes into this discussion that it's beyond just this. We also have to talk about our distribution system,
And financing.
our financing, funding, distribution.
Yes. So
Especially when you want to do drama. So I think it's a bigger
big
discussion than just why is it not working, or why aren't they doing it, or
So there are things that need to be fixed.
there are things that need to be fixed, for people to say, okay,
We're going to invest.
we're going to invest in this high-end crime thriller, for us to get our money back, because you can't. It's not cheap to make good thrillers or good crime dramas. You can make a cheap comedy, and people will go and watch it because the comedy is there, even if everything else is bad.
But you can't do that with other genres where people
No, you
have
can't get away with
specific
it.
expectations.
You cannot get away. You can't get away with it. Yeah, everything becomes very important. Every little detail becomes very important.
Okay, so what would you say is the primary role of a director, as opposed to a producer, a cinematographer, and editor? Who is a director?
To make it easy, I think filmmakers would. It's tough because a director's job is kind of like encompasses all when it comes to the creative part of it. But your question is primarily what is his job? And for me, the director's job primarily is with the actors, is with performance, right? So if an actor is not interpreting a character the way he should be, or the way the script to the level that that the script requires, either an emotion is not coming through in a scene, whatever, that's the director's place to step in and be like, try this, try that, channel this, channel that, so for me that's primarily the director's job. But it's beyond that. You have to look at the final picture, what's in the background, what are the extras doing, what's on the wall, what's the production design like, what's the set like.
The director builds the world of the story.
Right. And then you leave things like it's tricky because you can't leave anything out. You have to make sure everything is on point. But the director of photography comes in to make sure every technical aspect and the picture quality and the look of the film that has been agreed on by the director and the DP is being achieved. But so if you have a good DP, all you need to do is basically check in to make sure technically your picture is sound and that your sound is sound. But primarily the director's job is with the actors.
So as an actor, director, and filmmaker in Nigerian cinema and Nollywood, where would you like to see the industry go in the the next 10 years? What would you like to see the industry in the next 10 years as an industry, as a platform, as the role it plays in society and its positioning in the global film market?
I think personally for me, Nollywood is already aligning itself to be a major global player. I think already seen, sparks of interest from, big global bodies. Relativity has been here, Universal has been here. They haven't set up shop yet, but everybody's tasting the water. Everybody's waiting for us to just get the distribution right. If we get the distribution right, those guys would have been here yesterday. As far as I'm concerned. So I think it's evolving. It's evolving positively. There are more. I see new and new filmmakers every day who are pushing the boundaries of trying to make film better than what it was. So I think the future is bright for Nollywood, and I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I think we should start, playing with big major studios internationally. We see the growth of Bollywood, and Bollywood has fully integrated. And you see big co-productions between Hollywood and Bollywood now.
Searchlights had a specific office in Bollywood.
Exactly.
So
they're already there. So we're just we're behind. We're just a little behind, but we're going to get there too. We just need to fix one or two things, and that'll be it.
Okay, so what advice would you give to a young boy, a young girl coming out of school and they want to go into film? They either want to act or they want to direct.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm just kidding. No, but honestly, I mean, it's a tough business. So it's passion driven, but you can't forget that it's a business,
Sure.
So if you don't have the passion for it, you burn out, so be very sure that it's what you want. Be sure you're very passionate about it. Learn. You can't stop learning, and you can't learn enough. There's always going to be new technology. There's always going to be a new individual. You learn from different people because you work with different people every day. Every project is different, so you keep evolving as a human being. So, but that passion is what keeps you there. Because there is no system to success in film. There's really no textbook.
No playbook.
There's no exactly. So you just have to have grit and just go out and just grind and network and the only way you can get through all that is if you have the passion for it. So if you have the passion for it, feel your passion, learn about it, and go get it.
Okay. So would you like to talk about your next project? Is that something you could tell us a little bit about?
My next project is not ripe
for
discussion yet. I'll tell you this, the script is ready. But yeah, soon enough, we'll get to talk about what's on my table.
Okay, thank you a lot to UDOKA, and good luck with the next project.
Thank you.